Alright, people. So, obviously, this was the last video I was gonna post many times, but for this video to upload a new video just a little bit ago, so you'll have this video and then one more video. I know, then hopefully that's it. Hopefully, I'm scared to tell, so I'm just gonna post this video, no detriment video. If it does, then I might just hold up to tomorrow, guys. I can't, I have to push, I have to do stuff for other channels. So, this one and that, I'm waiting for the video, and that's all gonna do for the main time video stuff, okay? But this one about the Phineas and Ferb with DS previously with yeah. Yeah, nothing is full for because nothing is full with 5 was happening soon with some of the excited for guys those coming back. So I'm never seen it. Probably gonna start around to it soon on my cool guy basis channel. But look forward to this. The time I was talking, forget to subscribe, get more time for you. As also subscribers said, let's get it straight. Into this, people. Let's get it. Alright.
Channel's latest hit animated series, Phineas and Ferb, is on top of the world. Having premiered only 2 years earlier, this classic cartoon was just everywhere at the time. And of course, you can't be a popular cartoon in the 2000s without getting a few janky video game adaptations to capitalize on your success. And Phineas and Ferb was no exception. For it was this year that Phineas and Ferb got the first of what would soon be an entire series of video games. At least 6, to be specific. And we've talked about most of these before, but that was like 3 years ago, and I only spent like a minute on each game. And you know, with Phineas and Ferb finally being back, their big revival season legit premiered like a few days ago. I wanted to celebrate the new Phineas and Ferb by taking a look back at some really old school Phineas and Ferb stuff. Specifically, a trilogy of the first ever Phineas and Ferb games, all released for the OG Nintendo DS. Oh, and don't worry, a revival itself is definitely coming. So hit the subscribe and the next video, you won't miss that when it comes out. Anyway, for context, this is Phineas and Ferb. Say hi. They make things. They have a pet platypus. He's a secret agent. Try to keep up. There's like songs and blah, blah, blah. You should now. And these guys got whopping 3 video games, all made by the same developer, something called Alpha, and released damn near back-to-back for this guy, the Nintendo DS. Now we're talking. Dude, I love this thing growing up, and it's still so cool today. And all this started simply with Phineas and Ferb in 2009. It's just called Phineas and Ferb. It just booting the game up, and the nostalgia's already hitting me hard. Not for this game in particular, I never had it growing up, but for this whole era of the Nintendo DS. Games on this system just had such a unique vibe, and by unique, I don't always mean good. The game begins, as you might expect, with Phineas and Ferb lounging in the backyard trying to come up with something crazy to do that day. And naturally, they land on building a roller coaster, just like they did in the very first episode of the show. So we're actually kind of doing like straight adaptations of episodes here, which is interesting, I guess. But you know, don't get too invested in the story here. I've already covered basically the whole thing in like 1 sentence, so. But to build a roller coaster, we need parts. So we gotta go run around town and scavenge for take control of Phineas and Ferb, able to freely swap between the two at any time, and we run around a series of 4 pretty sprawling levels, just collecting scrap metal and broken electronics and junk like that. A literal junk. The primary gameplay is a pretty basic platformer vibe that's not quite 2D, but not fully 3D either. And you gotta scour every nook and cranny of these levels to find all the items you need. But how do you do this? Well, with the stylus, of course. Remember that little thing?
Yeah,
Walk into a pile of trash, draw a circle on the screen, get garbage. Find a toolbox and swipe up, you open it. Need to climb a ladder? First, tap a button to have Phineas climb on Ferb's shoulders, then swipe up near the ladder, then press these buttons back and forth over and over and over again. All that just to climb up a ladder to find another random thing that you gotta swipe, tap, or even blow into the microphone to interact with. Pretty much everything besides basic running and jumping is based on some kind of weird DS gimmick. And I hate it. I mean, you know, give them points for using pretty much every part of the DS for this game, but man, does it get old fast. Every few steps, you gotta pause your gameplay to grab the stylus, do one little thing, then put it back, repeat. Which only gets worse when you have to deal with the sheer number of mini games in each one of these levels. They are everywhere, dude. Just about everything you have to interact with has to be fixed first, which means you gotta go right into a mini game all the time. And I mean, we're not dealing with WarioWare here, guys. The mini games work okay, but they just don't feel good. There's just something not quite polished about them. And usually I wouldn't be harsh about this kind of junk, but the gimmicks take up like half the game here. It's just so constant, and it basically guaranteed that this game would age like milk. Speaking of which, man, this game is crunchy, isn't it? Yeah, okay, that's harsh. It's a DS game. They could only do so much. And I am genuinely impressed that the game went for fully 3D graphics, even if it kind of looks like you stuck a PS1 in a deep fryer. If we want to be nice, we can say it looks nostalgic. But way worse than the visuals is just the sound of this thing. I don't know what kind of sound chip or synthesizer they were using, but this 2009 DS game has a soundtrack that sounds like it was plucked right out of a bad Sega Genesis game from 1990. Listen to this. The DS is better than this. The music itself, like as written, is fine, but it just sounds rough, dude. And after a while, it really started grating on me. Because, man, this game is repetitive as hell. Not only are all levels basically the same, but the reward level, the big roller coaster thrill rides, are also all identical. Monster trucks and a water slide, but they're all just reskins of the same exact thing, which, I guess, move on. You collect 10 of these stars on each stage, and they are purposefully placed so you legit cannot get them all in one go, even if you do perfectly. You are forced to redo these sections over and over before you can move on to the next level, which is even more repetitive. It's just padding, man. Ew. I don't like it. But if you want to know the absolute worst part of Phineas and Ferb DS, first I gotta ask a question. The world is vibrating. But first I gotta ask a question. You notice anything missing? Yeah, there's no enemies in this game. No threats. Nothing to get in your way and try to stop you at all. Are totally unopposed, which, I don't know, makes sense, I guess. In the show, Phineas and Ferb do just kind of effortlessly succeed in everything they set out to do. The only person who ever even tries to get in their way is their older sister, Candace, who's, always trying to get them in trouble. Coincidentally, I haven't looked up at the top screen yet. Maybe I should see what's going on up there and... Okay, I get it. So instead of a traditional health system, Phineas and Ferb has the busted bar. When the meter gets up to 100%, Candace races down to the bottom screen to try and bust her brothers. And if the constant minigames weren't killing the pace enough, getting busted forces you out of the stage you're in to go play Pac-Man. Literal Pac-Man. The garden's a maze, the bolts are the white dots, Candace is ghosts, you're whatever the yellow thing is, it's Pac-Man. But bad. And I like Pac-Man, but if you get caught by Candace, instead of retrying or even just getting booted back to the normal level, you are demoted to a completely different stage. Yeah, you get kicked to a new Pac-Man stage that's like half as big with half as many things to collect. I get this is a kid's game, but damn, dude, that is patronizing. What do you think? I'm too much of a loser baby to play Pac-Man? Come on. And yeah, I did lose this minigame a lot. I'm not great at Pac-Man, and neither is this game. Get off my back! I do not like these mazes. The game also does not like these mazes, because legit, they give you every opportunity to not have to deal with them. You find tons of items throughout the levels to distract Candace or let you go undetected, and you will need them, because even though the tutorial implied that just doing certain special abilities will get Candace's attention, no, it's everything. The mere act of moving makes the bar go up. And that got me curious. So I left the game running in the background for a bit, went and did something else, came back, and the bar had completely gone down to 0. Legit, if you just stand still and do nothing, the bar goes down. And as soon as you start moving again, it goes back up. You are literally being punished for playing the game. At the core of this game's design, it is actively incentivizing you not to play it. Dude, I have never seen anything like that before. That is genuinely baffling. One might even ask, what were they thinking?
What were they thinking?
Anyway, after beating the 4 stages and their corresponding roller coaster minigames, we reach the game's final mission, which completely abandons every single thing we've learned so far because the game only just now remembered that Perry the Platypus was a thing. Yeah, dude, aside from some background gags, Perry and Doofenshmirtz were basically nowhere to be seen in this entire game. That is until they got shoehorned in for the finale. It's a boss fight based around QuickTime events, it's completely inconsequential, and it's pretty much over as soon as it starts. Bad game!
Ferb, step into the light. Your time on this mortal
toil has come to its end. Speak your final words now and enter the next life. Are you gonna say anything, or?
So that was rough in just about every way, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't still some charm to it. It's still Phineas and Ferb, it's still a DS game. I'm gonna have a little bit of a soft spot for it, and I'm sure some of you watching grew up with this game and hold a lot of nostalgia for it, which is great. Hell yeah. Maybe don't revisit it though. It might ruin the memory. I don't know. I can't really bring myself to hate it, but damn, do I never want to play it again. Whoops. Yes, with one game down, we move right into the second game in the trilogy, Phineas and Ferb Ride Again, released only 1 year later in 2010. Oh, that rhymed. Huh. And with a turnaround like that, I don't think you'll be surprised to know that very little has changed with this game. Same graphics, same Walmart electronics section keyboard sound and music, same setup of 4 sprawling levels, and the same basic gameplay loop of collect junk, build thing, avoid Candace, repeat. So with that in mind, temper your expectations when I say that this game is actually a lot better. So we're still digging through garbage and building death traps, right? But thankfully, mercifully, we can finally just press button to do most of it instead of having to sweep the screen all the time. The vast majority of touchscreen gimmicks have just been outright replaced with normal button prompts, but the more deliberate touch-based minigames, those are still here. Don't love that, and some of the new minigames they've added just are straight up broken. This one where you have to tilt the DS and move a ball around, never figured out how to get that to work right. I don't know if it's broken or I'm broken. That's a question for my therapist. What I'm getting at here is that the game has a much better balance going on with all the gimmicky stuff, making it way less annoying and honestly just more comfortable to play. Not having to swap between buttons and stylus every few seconds. It's a lot more comfy. And the reward for completing these levels is also way better. Like the last game, at the end of each stage, you get to ride whatever crazy contraption Phineas and Ferb set out to build. But first game just ran, all of which play totally different from each other. But it doesn't stop there. After these minigames, instead of jumping straight into the next stage and starting the whole process over again, the game tosses you into something totally new, a Perry the Platypus level.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, it's nothing crazy, just your average 2D platformer type beat with some kind of boss fight, but it really pulls this game even more in line with the full Phineas and Ferb experience. And they even do that thing from the show, whatever Perry's directly causes Phineas and Ferb's crazy inventions to disappear before it combust them. Speaking of Candace, unfortunately, her lame Pac-Man minigames are still here. I'm just not a fan. But like the rest of the game, it has had a few tweaks. There's like trampolines in the stages now, so you can move around faster. It's whatever. The real change here is that you'll barely even have to deal with these minigames in the first place because they have totally flipped the whole busted bar thing. Instead of literally every step causing the bar to increase, now it starts at 100%. And if you fail a button prompt or fall off the stage, the bar will go down. Once it hits 0, then you're forced into the Pac-Man minigame. But as long as you don't suck at a kid's game from 15 years ago, those minigames might as well not exist. Which I guess does beg the question as to why they're even still here. This is kind of like putting a band-aid on top of something that needs to be surgically removed, but I'm gonna let the game have this one. It is better. Also, for some reason, the devs added a little moment in each level where Candace gets just the absolute shit kicked out of her. Dude, I think it's nothing special. It's pretty much the same as the first game. Another Perry the Platypus boss fight, another pretty lackluster ending, whatever. But all in all, Phineas and Ferb Ride Again is a pretty solid improvement over the first game. It's a decent sequel. The whole thing is just way more balanced and... Okay, maybe I'll hold that thought. Phineas and Ferb Across the Second Dimension, the last in our trilogy, again released 1 year later in 2011. Now, this technically isn't a sequel to Phineas and Ferb Ride Again. It's a tie-in game for the Phineas and Ferb TV movie of the same name. The one where Phineas, Ferb, Candace, Perry, and Doofenshmirtz all get stuck in an alternate dimension where Doofenshmirtz is like an evil ruler. So the game is kind of its own thing, but it's still made by Altron. It's got all the same assets. I'm gonna count it. So booting up Across the Second Dimension and... There it is. I don't want to harp on music much, but what was it about this one damn synth sound that it put everywhere? Sounds like a car alarm going off, dude. Yeah, already not looking forward to this, really. But right as I was about to turn the volume down and put on a Paramore album or something, I heard this.
Press the B button to jump.
Voice acting!
What?
None of the other games had voice acting. What? Damn, that decom money ran deep back in the day. That's a pretty big step up in the production value. Now, for some reason, the Second Dimension tie-in games, there's also like a Wii and PS3 and PSP version, all of them start up like 2/3 into the story. And the DS one is no exception. Though, at least the other versions had like little recap cutscenes to help you get up to speed. The DS one doesn't, so if you're not caught up with the movie, you might be a little bit thrown off when you see that in this game, you can swap between playing as Phineas, Ferb, or Perry the Platypus at any time. Or, you know, seeing two Doofenshmirtzes, all that junk. They really just toss you right into the deep end. But that's right, we have 3 playable characters now, and they're packing heat. Phineas has a gun that shoots baseballs, Ferb has a laser gun thing that stuns enemies, and Perry has a grappling hook that can flip switches. Otherwise, he fights with his fists, whatever platypus hands are called. And they use these to fight wave after wave of enemies throughout each stage. Yeah, it may have taken 3 times to get there, but we finally have a Phineas and Ferb game with violence. For real though, finally having like actual threats in one of these games is huge. It's a massive change. It means we can finally die. But, you know, maybe don't. Oh my god. So, you know, because we've got enemies in combat now, the rest of the game has had to change around it. Where the first 2 games were bordering on like mini-game compilations, Across the Second Dimension takes a lot of those like assets and ideas and reworks them into a much more traditional run-and-gun platformer. Dude, they even copy the world map from New Super Mario Bros. Like, it's just, it's like they're trying to say, hey, we're a real game now, come on. There are 5 worlds in the game with a pretty sizable amount of levels in each one. And because we're jumping through dimensions, these stages can be just about anything. You know, they're these weird abstract levels where the world is entirely made up of like musical instruments. There's this funky Toyland dimension, the scary one, and Ancient Egypt, which pretty sure that's not an alternate dimension. I think that one just happened. And instead of gathering garbage and playing a bunch of touchscreen minigames, you know, we're completing platforming challenges, defeating enemies, and playing touchscreen minigames. Okay, there's not as many of them, but you know, they're still here. Old habits die tapping the touchscreen, I guess. The gameplay isn't deep by any means. It's still pretty repetitive and one note at its core, but it just feels better. And to be fair, this game is trying for even more variety. You know, the roller coaster minigames are still here, but, you know, instead of having to unlock them, they're just part of the regular world map. Much better. And just like in Ride Again, they're all different. Side-scrolling space shooters, chariot races, Donkey Kong-style minecart levels, and a non-side-scrolling space shooter. Okay, I said there was more variety. I didn't say how much. But beyond these minigames, there's also way more boss fights this time around. You fight things like Large Hair Cube, Concept of Percussion, Funny Skeleton, and the evil alternate dimension cyborg version of Perry the Platypus. That one's from the movie. Large Hair Cube is also from the movie. The fights got progressively less funny. None of these are particularly difficult. The combat never really evolves throughout the game, even in these boss fights. But just having more consistent bosses helped me feel like I was actually, you know, making progress in the game. It changes the pace and ups the stakes just enough for things to not turn into a slog. And the final boss sees the gang finally making it back to their home dimension and squaring off against that evil alternate reality Doofenshmirtz in a 2-stage boss fight that actually gets pretty intense for this kind of game. They throw a lot of junk at you here. Giant robot after giant robot, moving lasers, bombs dropping constantly. It's actually a lot to keep up with for a kid's game. It's also a lot for the kid's game itself to keep up with. Yeah, by the time I got to the last few stages, this thing was really starting to chug, dude. Slowdown is damn near constant in just about every fight by the end. I mean, it's doable, but yeah, it just kind of sucks that the game really struggles to stick the landing. It kind of just starts to fart out by the end. Okay, I'm getting distracted. But once you get past the first fight, you get a second phase where you gotta do some space shooting against a giant robot Doofenshmirtz. Cool. It's cool, but it's also way easier than the first fight, so it didn't take long to wrap things up. And then the game's just like, Hooray! And with that, we've reached the Phineas and Ferb DS trilogy. 3 weird oddities all released in the span of 3 years. If it's not obvious already, the best one, in my opinion, is Across the Second Dimension, and the worst one, by far, is the first game. Right Again, it's just like a slightly less bad version of that game, so it's sitting pretty comfortably in the middle. But at the end of the day, and no one's playing these games for their quality. That might sound harsh, but really, if you had these games as a kid, then you were probably just looking for anything with the triangle child on it, right? And if you played these as an adult, then it's probably just because you want a quick hit of nostalgia as the world crumbles around you. Or you make YouTube videos. I mean, guess which one I'm in. And you know, there's nothing wrong with any of that. Except for being a YouTuber. That one. Oh, and let's check back in on Phineas real quick.
It's still falling on the map.
Still going. You know, this happened to Ferb in the first game, too. I guess this is what happens when you don't know what you're going to do today.
Right. That was good. And then, yep. This still game definitely my favorite. Yep, but I'm not gonna make this out too long because I decided to do one more video because one more festivals, other stuff, other towns. So kind of upset quickly. No, if I feel for favorite, yeah, this first game was my least favorite, and the second one was mid, but the second one stuff my favorite, boss fights and voice acting, and yeah. Anyway, that's it. Much watch to subscribe. More video coming. My attitude for videos, recent videos. Stay tuned for that. Anyway, that's for now. Much watching. Subscribe. Get this game with more. Have 1,000 subscribers, which is absolutely insane. Anyway, that's it. Much watching. Guys, on in the last video of the day. This is.